Oh, here comes Robert.
You can see and hear me good, right?
Yep, just fine.
Yeah, I can you too. I just can't use it as a mirror. Hey, Robert.
There he is. Good afternoon.
Good.
Hello. I'm still eating.
That's all right.
I'm going to take my video off, but I'm still here and listening.
Okay, okay, okay.
Okay.
So I was delighted to have you to attend the live thing. That was fun. I don't know how it was for you, but I appreciated your presence.
What live thing?
So on Wednesday, I did a short live video on loving Earth,
Mhm.
and you were both there, but neither one of you talked, so that was okay.
I've slept since then. I don't remember it.
Well, the video is posted under Loving Life or Create Life or whatever that.
Oh, what's it about?
It was an exploration about people say they love the earth. Well, then how would she know? And walking through how
Oh,
we express that so that the earth recognizes that we're feeling that way. And we're not just making ourselves feel good.
I have a morning ritual of a little walk, and while I walk, I touch. I gently and I talk to the plants and the flowers and it's just a wonderful experience.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
exchange loving beauty
yeah.
with, yeah. That's that's one of the most valuable things of my day,
Mhm.
to interact with living plants, talk to them.
Yeah, I've explored a little bit with people who really live in that space, and there's some incredible stories about the plant wisdom, specific plants in particular, who seem to have a bigger charge, should I say, and the way they interact with people and that kind of stuff. It's really quite amazing. There's so much wisdom there if we but ask and listen.
Mm.
I mean, they're really waiting for that to happen, and we are being very slow in that relationship.
Yeah, well, I certainly can't say that I have a practice with them
Yeah,
because I don't. I just admire them and
yeah.
talk to them and touch them sometimes. Um, well, most of the time. But I don't have anything going on creatively with co-creatively
Oh, I
yet.
think, yeah, I think they're kind of waiting for that. I mean, that's for me, that's my understanding of the partnership with Earth is that there is that reciprocity that wishes to happen, but we have not yet been open to it, certainly not as a species, and very rarely as even individuals. But there are a few. So,
Well, for the most part, it's just an exchange of appreciation. I mean, there's nothing we need to do. I mean, there's
oh yeah,
nothing.
no, there is. There are lots of things to do. That's the point.
Yeah,
And
but
plants actually have intentions around that, and uh, expectation. I don't know, a receptivity ex to expanding and sharing what they know about the planet and how it works with us, so that we can add our gifts to what they do.
yeah, I don't. Um, I haven't experienced that yet. I mean, it's my morning walk and I say hi to them. It's like I'm not looking for a project. I don't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I had a garden, if I had some dirt of my own, you know, some land of my own, it would be very different. I
Why?
would be co-creative then.
Why? Why would that be different?
Because I can't, dirt that I own, dirt that I don't own, dirt that somebody else owns doesn't want don't, um, I mean, it's self-evident. It's not mine to do anything with. It
Well,
belongs to all, belongs to
yeah,
the earth.
yeah, it belongs to everybody, so I don't see what the problem is.
Well, I still remember what it feels like to be kicked out of the garden.
I
Okay.
understand that. I understand that. But I'm encouraging you to think beyond that experience because that's all a human experience. It has nothing to do with the earth, the plants. It's all between people. It has
True.
nothing to do with the rest of it. So you don't need to be stuck in there, is what I'm suggesting.
It's a morning walk. It's a morning walk. Okay.
Good. That's good. Yeah.
Come on, honey, no pressure here, no pressure.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. It's just the start of my day.
I've had this, similar sort of sense of, anxiety. Sitting with a Native American man. I mean, this was some years ago, young man, but, my age, and we were maybe 30, young from this perspective, maybe. Um, he spoke with such calmness and such a sense of immediacy, about, well, he spoke of connections, and the immediacy was so apparent and so compelling. And so I was feeling this anxiety. Would I ever have that kind of a connection?
Mm.
Because, of course, my background is totally different. And I know, I guess I still feel it to some extent. But at this age, I'm not gearing up to, do an about face. What I am doing, though, is learning how to have that same calmness and directness about what is my
Nice.
place. What is the ground with which I live on this earth?
Yeah.
And it includes a bit of a garden. I mean, a small garden, but and I'm limited to maybe a couple of miles hiking in the woods. But in terms of walking out and encountering these bumblebees that are flying around, and they just hang there. They totally don't care if I'm there or not. So I try to pet them sometimes in flight, and sometimes they'll actually let me touch them, and then they go.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
And
Wow.
but they hang there, and they're there every day, at least lately when I go out there. And but it's mostly about people. People need loving too.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh boy, do we. Yeah.
Yeah, never more than
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So, but I'm glad I found this sense of belonging, at least, because that's, I think, what's at the base of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Exactly.
the plant world is perhaps calling us to this belonging.
Yes.
Oh, I like that. That touches me.
Yeah.
When you say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we come as we are. I guess it's a come as you are party. I mean, you don't have to dress it up. I am this way, so I will come and in all authenticity be there with you,
Mhm.
person or plant or even my car response, just to change something,
Yeah, yes.
it does seem to feel better after I've, fixed something.
Yeah, or given a wash. Yeah, yes.
Hmm.
Well, I am quite immersed in new stuff. Um, and I don't know what it's going to look like, but it certainly is becoming more into my consciousness, I guess. The whole soil smart, soil wise thing.
The,
Um,
the what?
soil smart, soil wise.
Okay.
Yeah, it's another website, so you can go there if you want to see what that looks like. Um, and we're doing two events, one in May and one in June, and they're coming together really nicely. And I'm trying to figure out what the company looks like. And I'm not sure where that is going to go exactly. But I need to make some sort of choices soon. So I'm starting to talk to people about that. And if I do a 501(c)(3), I'm going to need other people because you have to have 3 people in a company to do a legal 501(c)(3). Um, and if it's an L3C, which is the other option for me, I still want other people. I mean, the whole thing is to try and build something that will be there after I'm gone. So it's not really about me. So trying to see where that will go and who might be involved and all that. So it's going to be interesting.
What's your intention slash vision slash desire?
Well, what I see that company doing is sharing a whole systems approach to climate change, which is the bionic pump, and getting people really familiar with what it is and how their everyday actions having to do with lands and plants contribute to it or don't. And to move people into consciously contributing to the health of the bionic pump wherever they are. And so the website talks to government agencies because I think a city is really needs to own that space so that the whole city is functioning in that way. And then there's a resident section because every individual can contribute. And then there's a developer section for people who are building, and trying to get them to think about land design before they build so that it holds water and has space for that. And then an agricultural piece, which I haven't put up yet, but which is coming. So we'll see where it goes.
Sounds, what's a bionic pump?
The bionic pump is actually responsible for 65% of the rain we get. 40% is the old story that we were telling ourselves about water evaporates from the ocean and it goes into clouds and it rains on the land. That happens mostly around the coast, right?
Hmm.
So the bionic pump is how that rain happens inland. And that's all about plants. And so plants have to have soil. So soil and plants and land design are all how the biotic pump functions effectively. And we all can contribute to that in different places, different ways. So it's just,
So, so a bionic, so a bionic pump kind of takes the place of a body of water.
oh, it doesn't take a place. It's what actually makes the body of water happen. If you don't have the biotic pump functioning, you don't have water. Water and soil are incredibly intertwined, and people do not understand that. I can tell you, they can be worried about water and never mention soil. I was on a talk with a, a bunch of people from Utah who are working on the Great Salt Lake, and it's all about water and using water less and all of that, and that's all fine, that's all necessary, but it's not sufficient because they're not talking soil. And the soil is what holds the water that goes into the streams and the lake and all of that. That's what makes that happen. So if the soil's not healthy enough to hold water, you can do whatever you want. It isn't going to be there. So it's really a critical understanding. And it's just, I was talking to a guy from the Biochar Institute in Seattle, and he was like, I hadn't heard about this. I don't know what this is. And when I go through the pieces, he goes, oh, yeah, there's a lot of science about that. Oh, yeah, there's a lot of science about that. And I'm going, yeah, but nobody's put it together. So there's science about soil, there's science about water, there's science about trees, but they don't see it as the system that it is. And it's the system that has to keep working. So you have to understand that flow so you can keep it healthy and have an impact. I mean, it's something we can all do. We can make our climates much better. And if we enough of us did it, that would have a global impact, just like destroying has a global impact. It's the same thing, just the other side.
Do you have diagrams?
Yep, but not a lot, actually. The FDA just did a new diagram for the new water cycle. They are not calling it the biotic pump. They are not calling it anything else. And it's very similar. It's not quite right, but it's really close. So people are inching in that direction, but they haven't really made that connection, a lot of them yet. Yeah, actually, the term biotic pump came out of Russia, a Russian woman who published a paper and called it that. And I really like that title. Other people are calling it the small water cycle. And if you Google those two terms, you get very different things. So I'm using the biotic pump because it gives you information on the biotic pump and how that works. A small water cycle gets into the old stuff really quickly. There's really not a discernment that those two are very different or understanding of it. So, but I'm finding people are interested, and so I'm seeing this as an advertising educational mechanism to begin with, and then hopefully we can actually do other things or work with other people to make it real.
And what this addresses is what is a lack of is a I'm trying to wrap my head around.
It's a natural approach to climate change. That's what it is. It's using nature to deal with climate change. So we're just partnering with nature, just understanding how nature works and making it possible, helping it happen, not getting in the way of it.
So my question for you is, what have we done that has caused, well, first of all, what is climate change? What have we done to cause climate change? And what are you proposing for us to undo what we've done?
So according to Lovelock, James Lovelock, in his book Gaia, his insight was, and it's just awesome to think about, that for 65 million years, the Earth has managed to keep the same amount of oxygen in the air. How is that possible? Just thinking about that is awesome.
Yes.
I mean, how is that possible? And his conclusion was that all of the plant life and animal life on the earth contribute to that balance. So in Jeannie Benyus's words, all actions create the conditions that support life. And so it's the life on the planet that keeps the temperature and the chemical balance that life needs to thrive.
Yeah.
And we have been very active in destroying all kinds of different life and have upped that balance.
By doing what? What have
Oh,
caused?
by mining, by using chemicals, by plastic, all the stuff we know, all the pollution is killing life and it's killing us, which we also know. Um, and so we have to just not do that. So the easiest, simplest thing is to make sure that the soil the dirt under our feet becomes soil. Because if it's dirt, it does not absorb water. If it's soil, it will absorb water. If it absorbs water, then you're letting Earth do what Earth knows how to do, which is keep the water we get, provide it to us over time in the dry periods, it's then available, and the plants can evapotranspire and seed the clouds for rain, and rain will happen. Without that, it won't. I mean, we've known for years that the Amazon makes its own climate, that the Amazon makes its own rain, because it's a big enough forest that they can actually see that happen within that forest. It's one of the places where they really understand it. We have not paid attention to the other boreal forests that we have in Russia and in Canada, for instance, because they do the same thing. So forest is really important. It's not just about trees, it's really about forest because you have to have this healthy ecosystem to really keep that whole cycle going. Trees will help. I mean, that's why the Miyawaki forest is a part of this whole thing because you're putting forests back, even in small patches. But planting trees helps, it doesn't hurt. But it's much better to have a whole ecosystem than just pieces and parts of it. I mean, that's the health of the whole system. So, I mean, those are things that we can do. There's lots of research about how when we cut down trees, all of a sudden it becomes desert. I mean, there's tons of research about that. That wherever we've cut down trees, suddenly there's no rain. Well, yes, because there's no plants to evapotranspire. And with the Miyawaki forest experiments, there's lots of research that says once we put that back, guess what? It gets wet, it gets cool, the plants are there, there's water. Streams come back. Permaculture has lots of research that once you make the soil healthy, all of a sudden streams reappear that have been dead for years. So, I mean, we know all these pieces, we just don't understand it's part of this cycle. And I think having the cycle clear in our minds is really beneficial.
I live in Santa Barbara where there's such a healthy balance of everything. So
Yeah, I
it's hard.
don't, but that's
Uh,
okay.
what?
It's just part of our culture. Our culture is not healthy. I don't think there's any place. And the only place I know actually that's really been consciously designed to do all this is Village Homes in Davis, California. I'm sure there are other places that have been consciously designed and they just don't have that kind of cachet. But I haven't heard of much. We have so much cement and so many chemicals that balance is just not a word I would use for any civilized space worldwide, actually. I just don't think it happens. We just haven't done that. I mean, that's not how we've lived. I mean, having trees around is nice, but that doesn't mean, and we're seeing this with forest fires and stuff, it doesn't mean that it's healthy. I mean, there's just so much damage we've done in so many different ways.
I I I don't find myself in a position to do anything about it.
No, you don't need to. Not everybody needs to do everything. You need to make yourself happy. That's what you need to do.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, it's being authentic is really the biggest key to anything right now. And when people really are there, then you know what's right for you, and that's what's right for you, period. Yeah. As Robert said, there's no pressure really at all.
Well,
Yeah.
there is pressure in one extent, that I keep reading articles that astound me,
Mm.
in the news feed. Number one is the extraordinary amount of energy required to maintain this artificial intelligence framework that's being created.
Yes, yeah.
Um, not to mention Bitcoin,
Oh,
and,
Bitcoin.
um, which led. I follow this one woman, Sabine Hoffensperger, or something
Yes, yes, she's wonderful, isn't she?
wonderful, and she just did a video saying that she used to believe that the future was electric vehicles, EVs.
Yeah.
She says she's changing her mind. It's hybrids. And the reason she's giving is that rapidly we're beginning to realize that there's no possible way for the electric grid. And this is not even taking into account the current trajectory toward much greater use for AI and so forth. Um, and she said there's just no way it can be built out, particularly in just using sustain, what do they call it?
Green.
Green energy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the other aspect of this is or the other trends I'm seeing is people are starting to look more and more longingly toward climate control through immense, what do you call that? Earth
Geoengineering.
geoengineering. And they show some balloons and say, and
And mirrors and yes, yeah.
oh, that might work. Everything we've done works so well already. I mean, goodness, of course it'll
What could
work.
happen? What could go wrong? Yes.
So getting the impression that, that there is no um, central consciousness at work uh, on this planet. I've been reading this book by David Brooks.
Oh yeah. How to know a person. Yes, he's great.
It's very interesting. What really grabbed me was he starts talking about perception in this one part. And I don't know, it just came out of nowhere, how people's reactions to the emergencies in life can become super focused. And so what he's writing about is, in general, we're not wired to be super focused because our brain over evolutionary eons has decided that it really gets very little information from the senses, sensory perception. And that in order for a human to properly survive, the brain has to be enhanced. The work of the brain, the work of the senses must be enhanced by memory. So in other words, our brain is constantly creating the world we look at.
Mhm.
And he cites research which has shown this to be true, that just how clearly tied people's whole expression and life is due to the way they perceive life. And so how differently same people can see the same thing, or different people can see the same thing in totally different ways. And it's just really opening my eyes. We're hardwired to do this, to have this sort of subconscious reality flood through in our everyday thinking. So it's all from the past.
Mm-hmm.
To say you're in the present moment is almost meaningless unless you truly have gotten away from these intervening influences. That's quite a shock, because, we've been contemplating our navels for years and, and thinking we were in the present moment. But no, it's by design. The way we now are as human beings, many, most, it's how we are. And it's led me to some pretty extraordinary thoughts. Now, there is a way to get out of it, and that is to keep reminding yourself, oh, well, that's from the past. What's happening right now, and really pay attention.
Well, I would suggest meditation and enlightenment are two other paths out of it.
Yeah, well, because that's what you do in those, is to learn to pay strict attention. Now, how far that takes people, I don't know, because I do know amongst people I've met, there's a lot of fooling ourselves. But there are recognized masters who have achieved, well, illumination simply means moving into this space where you are not affected by the overall subconscious reality from the past, but by what's happening now. So it's just very interesting thought, because I'm beginning to realize that human beings have to rise to this kind of unanimity of presence to a considerable degree. And then it might start to create a flow.
Yeah.
Consciousness. And I mean, that's basically what my wife and I are working toward. That's devoted our entire lives now to that. The only problem is I'm not going to be here much longer. I mean, however you cut it, it's not going to be that much longer.
Could be 30 years.
Not according to some of the reports I've just gotten. Could be a lot less than that. But what I'm saying is that that work is just so important. That's what I mean when I say to be the authentic self, as much, to be that presence. It brings something into the world. And we do that in meetings like this one, and such that it's almost like a worship service as far as I'm concerned. It's understanding that a certain flow can go through us and bring up emergent ideas and qualities that otherwise wouldn't be there. And it's quite extraordinary. So this is what I've been observing in the past couple of days, and I'm truly moved by the fact that there is an out, but we're sort of running against a clock that's running out very quickly. I mean, who knows what that means, or how much time that really is, because on geological terms, it could be another 100 years easily. But with somebody with his finger poised over that red button to start the nuclear war, it could be any minute. We don't know.
I love what you're saying. The statements I've written, it's fascinating. Our brain creates the world we look at. And the present moment is influenced by the past moments.
Yeah. Well, can I read just quick?
Well, that's autopoiesis, isn't it?
Yeah. But let me read just something that really gives the essence of what David Brooks was getting at, and it's pure poetry. Your senses give you a poor quality, low resolution snapshot of the world. And your brain is then forced to take that and construct a high definition feature length movie. Very poetic, but I have a feeling, yeah, that I think that really is accurate.
But something
Yeah.
you said, yeah, something you said earlier does not wed sensory and brain together, like you just did with that statement. So I'm just trying to bring it all together, what you've been saying.
What I mentioned before was simply that the brain uses an overlay of all of these background effects and beliefs and, you know, loves, fears, or things that he points out, you know, all of this lived experience is acts, whatever's contained in the brain acts as a backdrop to any current, you know, present moment, you know, observations or perceptions through not just eyes, but ears and touch and so forth. And so this is a process that's constantly going on. So it's just that last sentence I read is kind of his poetic summation of it. You know, it's sort of lighthearted and funny, but on the other hand, I think there's a lot of truth to it. That we do have to live in a movie. I mean, we're very present within our societies. You know, through the, you know, the interconnection of humans, and we're truly all living out a movie, in one sense or another, or most of us are anyway. So you know, it's just another way to look at the world, but it's kind of a wake up jolt.
We talk about the brain without giving necessary attention to the frontal lobe, which is our self-reflective capacity that can evolve us. So I just want to, because the brain is has a functionary kind of thing, but the frontal lobe of the brain has a self-reflective, and
Right.
and they're very different operationally.
Well, and if one is reflecting upon one's self, that is a present experience. But what's it using? It's using past information to do that. Typically, instead of what I would call a present, let me give an example. The other day, I was sitting out in the bright sun, and I just happened to look down at my hand, and it was hooked like this. And I looked at that hand, and it just startled me. So all of a sudden, I said, I'm old. It's like the first time I realized that that was a hand of an old person. Looked at this way, where it's stretched out, it never occurred to me. And that's usually how I would see it. That's the kind of present moment interaction, that there's an emergent feeling attached to observation that is totally new. And of course, we have those all the time too.
What's the point?
The point is that I think to be, well, I'll use the word enlightened, but to truly be, have an illuminated consciousness within this world, there has to be a movement toward being consciously focused into the momentary experience. And, you know, using memory is useful, but not letting memory dominate.
So I want to bring in Andreas Weber, because I think that is his approach, is that immediate
Yeah, I think so.
revelatory. And it is then more of a connection than an observation, that it becomes a both and. It puts you back into the web of life as opposed to separate and watching it, which is where most of our stuff comes from, is we're learning from it, we're looking at it, we're trying to manage it and navigate through it, but we're not really connected to it. We don't have that experience as a rule. So I think there's a place to open into that, using our bodies actually, and using that, really developing that physical sense instead of keeping it just this light surface that we're so used to.
And it has immediate effects. I was
Mhm.
startled by what I saw. I took a picture of it, recreated it with a picture, and I sent it to my sister, who's an artist, who's
What?
the picture of my hand,
Oh, okay.
back of my hand. So I sent it to my sister, who's made her living as a sculptor, for 45, 50 years, and got an immediate result, which doesn't usually happen. But she was thrilled. She said, "Okay, so what are you going to do with it? I think you ought to paint it." Which I said something about that. And then she immediately, I mean, not immediately, it was maybe half an hour later, dings again, the phone dings again, and I get 2 pictures of her hands. And both of us have worked with our hands excessively in our lifetime. And thank God there's no arthritis there.
Probably
And,
why.
well, yeah, like people think the opposite, but that is probably why. But it's that kind of immediate experience followed up on that can go places that you never could imagine.
Looking at the back of my hand right now is a revelatory thing. It is far more wrinkled than I have in my mind. Oh,
It's
it,
like, whoa, how did that happen?
whose hand is that?
You gotta own it, honey. You gotta own it.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. But it's interesting. It's kind of artistic. I mean, the wrinkledness. It's very interesting. I don't know what to do with it, except put some lotion on it.
Well, what the exact words were something, well, something like this. My sister said, go with it and see where it takes you.
Uh,
So
I read an interesting article just yesterday by a woman who was ruminating on the fact that, well, actually, it was an interview shared about a woman who, when she had interviewed her, the woman had said that she never felt old because while her body aged, the person inside hasn't. It's been the same age all the time. And this was an understanding my son had when he was like, I don't know, 5 or 6. He said, "Oh no, I've always been like this. I've always had this awareness, this consciousness my entire life." And so there's this dichotomy between us, who we are actually, and the bodies we inhabit.
yeah. I turned 83 this April the 23rd.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yes.
I am so youthful inside of myself. I mean, who I know myself to be is young.
Yeah. And I find it difficult. That's been one of my conundrums is what is real now? Because I have this desire to do stuff, i.e. the business and all that kind of stuff, and I don't at the same time. I don't have that. There's a lack of drive and a lack of energy that I'm also noticing that is real too, you know? And so I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. And I'm really very conscious about that. I mean, that's one of the reasons I haven't done some of the things I've done is because I'm noticing this discrepancy and I don't want to call it out. I don't want to be in places where that's dramatically available to people. And so it's kind of a conundrum as to how to be authentic and effective in this particular time and body space. Yeah, I don't know. I have an answer to it either, but there we are.
I hear what you're saying, what you say you have a lack of. What do you have an abundance of? Because
Oh,
both,
ideas and thoughts and yeah, creativity and challenges and
Enthusi-
possibility. I have a, I'm
enthu-
sorry, enthusiasm. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Robert, what?
Enthusiasm.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Enthusiasm can take us a long way.
It can get us in trouble too.
Well, enthusiasm is a life force.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm kind of an enthusiastic person. I'm kind of
Well, and
and
yeah, I'm kind of using that as a touchstone too. As long as I have energy for something and it is generative, it's not just excitement in my mind, but it really motivates me to do something, then I'm kind of following it, which is why I got into the business thing. Because it just I can't not do this. So I just have to assume that the energy and all the rest of it is going to be there. Maybe not from me, maybe from others that I attract. I don't know. But
good,
I need to take the steps I'm taking and see what's going to happen with it.
good. Sounds
Yeah.
right.
But I don't feel I'm not like pushing consulting. I could do it, but I don't want that to be the focus. I really feel it's more because I can talk easily. I talk at the drop of a hat. That's not a problem. So I can do a lot of talking right now. Not so much writing. Writing is harder for me at this point, but I can talk a lot. So that's kind of the role I have accepted is to talk a lot about this, however I can do it, and then hope that the rest of it comes along because of that.
I've been interested the last few days in my life story. I
Mhm.
find myself writing the last few days, but my life story. Because a friend who took me out for my birthday told me I should write because I have an interesting life when I share some things with her, and thoughts and I so I'm it. So would isn't that the same for everybody? That I mean, each of us has a life story,
It's true.
and
Well, that's why we like stories.
I'm inclined to believe they're probably interesting,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
dynamic,
Yeah.
dynamic, conflicting, you know, challenging, encourage,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's how we learn from each other is through those stories, telling those stories. So your poetry and your writing is really significant. It should be shared. No pressure.
I started yesterday. It's like, but it's you can get kind of emotional about it because my life story. I mean, I'm writing it. It's talking to me. When I write, what comes. It talks to me. My life story began when I stabbed my dad to get him out of the house.
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit, you know? But it's true. My life story began then. And I don't even know exactly what that means, except we create our life story by what, so it's fascinating. I mean, I would love to hear other people's life stories that's raw and and honest and 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 present, you know, um, because I realized that set the stage for the agency that I have, for the strength of character that I have, for the courage that I have.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And wow, okay.
Yeah.
Because my life story did begin with that act,
Yeah.
because that told me a lot about myself.
Mhm.
Because I was doing it to protect my mom, who was having a nervous breakdown. And he was just making it worse. But those kinds of things are uh, good to exchange with each other.
Yes.
Because I'm sure you have stories. You have a life story that has dynamic interludes.
I had an interview yesterday for a podcast here, and one of her questions to me was, how did you get involved in nature and when did that become important to you? And when I thought about it, what I said was, well, it was a way to get away from my mother
Okay.
because
Yeah.
it was. My mother had multiple sclerosis and she was really nasty. And I understand that. I thought about it for a long time, for many years. So I have great compassion for her. At the time, not so much. And I really needed a space that was nurturing because it wasn't there. So, I mean, yeah, there, when we tell our stories, the amount of potential for self-forgiveness that comes as other people begin to see, and as we begin to see that what we did was necessary and right, even though it could be bad and wrong. Stabbing your father is not considered a good thing, you
Right.
know, and yet it was the perfect act in the at the perfect time. And we've got so many stories about why we're bad and wrong. I mean, our culture really does that to us. There's very little that says, oh, that was a good thing to do. you know and women in particular, there's a thing going around on Facebook that somebody says, I want to hear someone who says to a little girl that, you're so bossy, to say, you're showing leadership skills, because that's the same thing,
Nice.
but it's the framing, and we don't get the leadership skills. We get the bossiness, you shouldn't do that skills. And it takes years to unbundle all that kind of stuff. So the more we can share about this, the more we can explore with each other our own hidden secrets and our own challenges, and see how right that was instead of wrong that was, the more we can feel comfortable being who we are and expressing ourselves with each other.
And being true to a frame of reference of character building rather
Mhm.
than a frame of reference of social propriety.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. I love our deep dives. Mm.
Yeah, David Brooks has been so shocked by the Magna phenomenon. He just does not understand how that could happen. That's why he wrote the book.
The what? Magnum. What?
Magna, yeah, Make America Great Again.
MAGA.
I don't know what you're talking about.
That's Trump's phrase, Make America Great Again. So,
I know.
yeah. So he's been really struggling to understand that because he watched the party, the Republican Party that he loves so dearly, just collapse under that. It's been really hard for him. Really hard for him.
Oh, well, time for him to expand, I guess. That we all.
That's what he's trying to do. That's what the book was, his attempt to do that.
Oh, oh. Robert, how are you feeling? What are you feeling right now?
In terms of what,
In terms of,
You seem pensive.
well, I mean, the last thought I had was, we're almost finished. I'm going to get to work on this painting for my sister and to see where that leads.
Yeah.
But no, in general, I've had some rather difficult news, you know, but inconclusive about my health.
I
So
wonder.
I'm waiting to see what happens there. So that definitely is it's not weighing too heavily, but it's definitely there. And
You want to share? Do you feel comfortable sharing?
um,
No.
no, I wouldn't, because it's truly I mean, I might list a few symptoms, but what does it mean?
Right.
But some of the portents are very serious. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I I built a greenhouse in the past week for our garden, and I mean, got what, plenty of energy and been walking and so forth. So, in that sense, it hasn't arrived yet, but but it's something to carry, see what
Yep.
happens.
Yeah. I'm going to have my right hip replaced again soon. So that's impacting my thoughts too. It's not quite as serious, but still a interrupt.
what is, I guess this is to both of you because you're both speaking about the same thing or having the same experience, like something's wrong, you know. What's your framework? What framework are you bringing that into to manage it? I don't know how else to ask it but that. So let me just say, when something I don't like, I mean, the framework is everything. The framework within which I put any information whatsoever, the framework determines the outcome. So,
It's not quite so magical, I don't think. It
but no,
determines the experience of the outcome, but not necessarily the outcome.
yeah, good, good. Whether it's an upper or a downer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Because I find myself resorting to a positive framework a lot. with things that go on, everything that goes on.
Right.
Yeah, I do too, but there's, for instance, in my situation, I have some concerns around my daughter and what will happen in her life when I'm not there. Uh, and, you know, I don't have a lot of control over that.
Mhm.
There are only certain things I can do, which I'm trying to do. And some of the things I want to do, I'm having great difficulty manifesting. So they may not happen either. So I don't know how to say whether that's a positive. I just, for me, reality is reality. It's neither positive or negative. It just is what is. And recognizing that gives me options in terms of how I um, hold it. It doesn't necessarily do anything else. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't even have those frames of positive or negative in that situation. It is what it is. And so much of it is vague and unknown, that I can't use that frame. It just doesn't fit for that particular experience. Um, and I feel, especially at this time, that's a lot of it. There's not a positive or negative. There are lots of changes, lots of places to choose differently, um, lots of tests of my understandings and belief systems and skill base. Um, Positive or negative, it's just what it is. I can't use those terms. It just doesn't fit.
Yeah,
I
in many ways, this isn't any different from just looking around at within our social construct. There's so much that could be deemed positive or negative, and not to get caught up in that because we simply have no idea.
Yeah.
But autopoiesis comes into it with great force. It's like, I will continue regardless,
Yep.
no matter what. And I'm constantly able to adjust according to the need. And yeah,
And we will continue even without these bodies. We continue.
yeah,
You know.
say that again, please.
Well, even without these bodies, we continue.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's not an end, it's just a difference. That's all.
And 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 that's the main driver that I focus on within me. That keeps my energy up
Mhm.
because that's what I go by,
Yes.
how I'm feeling. I mean, if if energy is flowing through my body, that's it. I mean, that's we just hit a home run.